Okay, one thing that I really want you to develop over the course of the semester is your ability to be efficient in your calculations. Ideally, we're doing nothing paper and pencil. We're doing nothing on the calculator. Uh, I would like you to do all of your calculations on Excel. So I've developed a sequence of 20 or so introductory workbooks that over the course of the semester I'll post 2 or 3 each week. Will align with the topics in the book, and as we go through the semester you're just going to develop your proficiency with Excel as a data analysis platform. There's a lot of different platforms we could use for doing statistics. There's R and SPSS and Minitab and StatCrunch. There's all different ones. Excel is probably the most common, the most widely used. Any computer you sit down at is most likely going to have Microsoft Office and Excel. So this first introduction workbook, which you'll find in the week 1 folder, there's no statistics at all. This is just an introduction to Excel. What I'm going to do is I'm just assuming no one's used Excel before, even though most likely some of you have, and to varying degrees. I'm just going to, I'm going to play it safe and start at the beginning. So where I post those Excel introduction worksheets, you'll see multiple files for each one. So there is like a handout, a PDF of the handout, which lists the question or questions, and then you'll see most likely three Excel files. One with the title and then the word blank, one with the title and then with notes, and one with the title and then solution. So the solutions is the complete full solutions of all the problems on the worksheet. The first 2 files, the blank and the with notes, those are both there for you to do. If you are just learning Excel, you might want to use the, I recommend starting with the blank worksheet, and then if you're having trouble or if there's some confusion, open up the with notes workbook, which it won't have the solutions, but it will have sort of maybe a few steps on the way to the solutions. Okay, so what I have here on this first one is 7 problems that just introduces you to how we use Excel. Basically, we're going to be using Excel for basically doing all of the calculations quickly and efficiently. And there's going to be 2 ways that we're going to perform calculations. One is with actual arithmetic, so there's plus, minus, times, and divide on the keyboard. And most of the time we're going to be using actual formulas. And I'm going to assume no one's ever used a formula in Excel. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that presently. So down here, so this file that I have open, Excel Intro Number 1 Basics, Listing, Counting, Arithmetic, blank. So this is called a workbook. So the file itself is called a workbook. And in this particular workbook, there are multiple sheets. So if you look down at the bottom, there's one sheet for notes, one sheet for problems 1, 2, and 3, a sheet for problem 4, and so on. So these tabs at the bottom, these are called sheets. So, and you could add, you could add sheets with this plus sign, and you can move them around. So I'll put that new sheet at the end. Okay, so Excel is a 2-dimensional data array spreadsheet, and each location, each individual block, so right now you see I have one block highlighted with a mouse. Each location is called a cell. And so since it's 2 dimensions, just like the XY plane or you're graphing algebra class, each location is given by 2, not 2 numbers in this case, 1 letter, 1 number. So you need like horizontal and vertical, row and column. So for example, J7 this means column J, row 7. So this cell I have highlighted in yellow, this is J7. This is location J7. We're going to be using formulas based on locations, not based on numbers. I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit later. So if you look at the second box, we'll be exploring the basic functionality. There's two ways to perform a calculation. So number one, first in cell M15, type the number 5. So here's column M, and if you look over on the right, you'll see 18 is highlighted, so I'll go up to 15. So now this is cell M15, I'll highlight it in yellow. So in M15, type the number 5. Okay, so now I've just entered some data. Now in the next cell, N15, so over here, I'll highlight that a different color, maybe blue. So in N15, I want you to type 2 times is the little star over the 8 key, 2 times M15. Oh, actually, yep. Sorry. Let me get rid of that. Every formula has to start with an equal sign, or else it's just text. So equals 2 times M15. So what that says is the location in blue, N15, sorry, is going to equal 2 times whatever number is in location M15. So 2 times this location. And then enter will give me the number 10. So now this blue cell is defined based on whatever number is in the yellow cell. So if I change the number in the yellow cell, let's say I change it to 7, that updates the blue cell automatically. If I change it to 100, it will automatically update the blue cell to 200. So we're going to be doing our calculations this way, based on location, not, I wouldn't want to type in 2 times 5, because if I change the 5, then I would have to change the formula. If your formula, in this case in the blue cell, the formula is 2 times the number to the left. So if the number to the left changes, the blue cell automatically changes. Now, the second way to do calculations on Excel is to use a built-in formula. So, for example, I'm going to use the sum formula. Sum is for addition. So, in M25, 26, 27, 28, 29, so that's right here is M25, type the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, and now in M30, let me highlight M30, I'm going to add these numbers up by using the sum formula. So, the functions in Excel, the basic functions look like this. You have an equal sign first, the name of the function second, and then in parentheses, the data that you're applying the function to. So if I'm using the sum function, equal sum, so now Excel will give me a list of functions that have the word sum in it. The first one is the one we're looking for, adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So if I click on the sum function, I'm just going to highlight the 5 cells. I'll click and drag and close parentheses. So this is saying apply the sum function, which adds up all the numbers, to the data in this location, M25 through M29. The colon between the two is through. So M25 up to M29. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. So now this blue cell is based on the data that is in the yellow cells. And this is what normally what I do is I make any numbers I'm inputting, I make them yellow, and the cells that are based on a formula, I make them blue. So now this blue cell, M30, is based on whatever information is in these 5 yellow cells. So if I change one of them, if I change the number 1 to a 8, let's say, it will update the blue cell. You'll see now there's 22. So when a cell is defined based on location, so sum of location M25 through M29, that means if I change the data, all of my formulas based on that data will automatically update. Another function that's common, average. We're going to be using this quite a bit. Let's say, we have nothing in column A right now, but for example, this function, equal average A1 colon A20, this is telling Excel to take whatever numbers are in column A, rows 1 through 20, and calculate the average, or add them up and divide by 20. And down here, these yellow cells, two ways of doing the same thing. In this first one, if I take these 5 numbers, I can add them up by saying equals, and you'll see up here on the function bar, the formula that I'm using. So equals B44 plus B45 plus B46 plus B47 plus B48. So I'm applying addition 4 times. This is not how you want to perform calculations. In Excel, you want to perform calculations. If you're doing repeated calculations, you want Excel to do all the repetition for you. So over here on the right, doing the same thing, I'm just using the sum formula. So this is applying addition to all of the numbers in this range. In this case, B44 through B48. This is, D. That should be D. Well, it's applying it to these 5 numbers in column B. Could actually change that to a D. And change that to a D. And now, so this is the same 5 numbers. Okay, so these sheets at the bottom, these 7 questions you see on the worksheets, or on the PDF worksheet, are just to get you familiar with the functionality of Excel, doing calculations on Excel. I just want you to get familiar with the platform. There's most of the time there's multiple ways of performing a task, and the more familiar you are with the system, the easier it will be for you to choose the most efficient way to perform a task. Now, number 1, the first problem is to add up all the numbers from 1 through 100. So it's 100 numbers to add up. We just saw that the sum formula is what we're using for addition, and the first thing we need is the actual numbers, 1 through 100. Now, everything we're going to be doing on Excel should be efficient, streamlined, and quick. So I definitely don't want to type in 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and so on. Excel you can input data, and Excel can perform pattern completion. So you start a pattern and just click and drag, and Excel will complete the pattern as much as you want. So if I want all the numbers from 1 to 100, I could start off with just 1 and 2. And if I select these two numbers, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little square. When I put the mouse over it, it turns into a plus sign, a little block plus sign. So what I'm going to do is click, hold in the mouse button, and drag. And as I drag it, you'll see Excel continues the pattern. So I started with 1, 2, and then Excel keeps going from there. I need the numbers 1 through 100, so I will keep going down, down, down until I get to 100. So now I have the numbers 1 through 100 entered, and over here where I have spaces for the answers. The answer to number 1 is the sum of all of those numbers in column A. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. We could say equal sum and actually type in A1 through A100, and that's what we want. So 5,050. I'm going to delete that. Another way, if the only information in column A, if all the information in column A is what we want to use for the calculations, then there's a sort of a shortcut to, rather than type in A1 through A100, we could say equal sum, and then in the parentheses you just click on the A. So that will basically take all the information in column A and find the sum. So again, 5,050. Problem 2, add up the first 50 multiples of 11. So again, 11, 22, 33, 44, so on and so on. We want the first 50 multiples of 11. Just like in the first problem, I'm going to center this just so it looks a little bit nicer. So up here, center. Okay, so I need the first 50 multiples of 11 in Excel before I could do anything to them. So we'll say 11, 22, and that should be enough for Excel to complete or continue the pattern. So you highlight both, and in the right hand corner click and drag, and Excel is continuing the pattern of multiples of 11. And I'll go down to row 50, and I have now the first 50 multiples of 11. So to add up the first 50 multiples of 11, equal sum, now everything in column B, 14,025. So now third, divide the answer from number 1 by the answer from number 2. So 50/50 divided by 1425. And round to 3 decimal places. So I'm only going to type numbers in manually if I absolutely have to. I want you always to be using your calculations based on location, not based on manually typing in the numbers. So over here in the yellow cell, I'm going to say equal, and you could just click on the cell. So I want D1 divided by D2. So I could just click on D1 and the slash for division divided by D2. So you'll see now equals D1 over D2, enter, and oh, it's already rounded to 3 decimal places. You could change the rounding by right click and format. And so let's say it wasn't already rounded, it gives you something like this. Right click, format the cell, and under number, change the decimal to 3 places. So again, this 0.360 is based on a formula that's using location D1, not the number 50/50, but it's using location D1 divided by location D2. So if I change D1, it changes the result in D3. So I'll go back to 5050, and it will automatically change D3 back to 0.036. Number 4, add up the first 20 perfect squares. So like 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. So if you try to do, Excel can't continue every pattern. If the patterns are too complicated, Excel can't do them. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. The next one should be 16, and then 25 and 36 and so on. Let's see what happens if we try to, yeah, Excel can't decipher the pattern that I've put in. So we'll have to figure out another way. Let me just, oops. Let me clear this. Let me clear all this. So we'll have to figure out a way to get the first 20 perfect squares. So what I'm going to do is, instead of the first 20 squares, let me just get the first 20 numbers. So I'll do 1 through 20. Got them there. And now what I want is each number I want squared. So let's just start with the first number. In location B1, let's say this should equal the number to the left raised to the second power. So exponents is the caret over the number 6. So this says, right now this says location B1 is going to equal the number to the left in A1 raised to the second power. And 1 squared is 1. Now, we want to apply this function to every one of these numbers. We want to apply the same function 20 times. So just like Excel continued this pattern, Excel will update this formula if you drag it down. So let me just drag it down 3 spaces. 149. So this formula is number to the left, second power. And now if I go down to B2, you'll see Excel updated the index on the A. So instead of A1 squared, it's A2 squared. And now down here, Excel, when you're dragging a formula down, Excel will automatically increase the index by 1. So the A1 becomes A2, the A2 becomes A3, and so on. So I'll drag this all the way down, and I have now, this is A4 squared, this is A5 squared, so on. So now I have the first 20 squares. And the problem is, add up the first 20 perfect square numbers. These, I'll make these bold. These are the first 20 square numbers, and I'll add them up, equal, sum, and I'll just, you can manually type in B1 colon B20, or you can click and drag, highlight the numbers you want to add up. So you should get 2870. And again, I want you to do all of these exercises yourself. Make sure you're getting the same answers as I am. Next problem, list the first 40 odd numbers and do the following. So in red is the problem. So split the list in half, multiply the first half, each number by 17, multiply the second half, each number by 4, and add up the resulting numbers. So step 1, list the first 40 odd numbers. So I'll start with 1, and then 3, and then 5. I could just do 1 and 3, but I'll do all 3 in this case. So here's the pattern. Excel can complete this pattern. So there are the first 40 odd numbers. So take the first half. So let me I'll highlight the first half in one color, and I'll highlight the second half in another color just so you see what I'm doing. Let's do green this time. Maybe this green. That's a nice green. Okay, so the yellow numbers I want to multiply by 17, and the green numbers I want to multiply by 4, and then add the results in column B. So I want every number in A multiplied by 4. So I'll start with the first number in B1. I'll say equals location A1 times 4. So 1 times 4 equals 4. And when I drag this down, Excel will update the index. So if you look at the function bar up here, you'll see a 1 times 4, a 2 times 4, a 3 times 4, and so on. And Excel will increase the index by 1 each time. So now in column B, I have each of the yellow numbers multiplied by 4, and oh, sorry, let me redo that. I wanted to multiply by 17. Change that to 17. So 1 times 17, 2 times, or 3 times 17, and so on. So now I have each number in the first half multiplied by 17. I want to multiply each number in the second half by 4, so I'll go to the first green number, and in column B I'll say equal number to the left times 4. So now B21 is equal to A21 times 4. And I will drag this formula down to the bottom. And the overall goal of the question is to add up the resulting numbers. So down here in B41, I'll say equal the sum of B1 through B40. So you should get 11,600. Okay, problem 6. The Fibonacci sequence is defined as follows. The first number is 1. The second number is 1. And for the rest of the sequence, each number is equal to the sum of the previous 2. So the first number is 1. The second number is 1. So the third number should be 1 plus 1, which is 2. And the fourth number should be 1 plus 2, which is 3. And so on. 2 plus 3 gives you 5. 3 plus 5 gives you 8. And so on. Now, we don't want to calculate and type the first 50 Fibonacci numbers. So what I want to do is use Excel to calculate the last 48. I type in the first 2 and let Excel do the next 48. So, and it's defined by a formula. Each location is equal to the sum of the 2 above it. So in this cell that I have selected, I want this to equal this location plus this location. So I want A3 to equal A1 plus A2. So now when I drag this down, Excel will increase the index by 1. So if I drag it down once, the A1 and A2 became A2 and A3. So the 1 becomes a 2, and the A1 becomes an A2, and the A2 becomes an A3. So this should, yeah, we get the same numbers, 3, 5, 8, so on and so on. So I want the first 50. What's happening here? Oh, I'm going to start at the beginning. So 1, 1, 2. Okay, there's our formula, our first formula in cell 2. Actually, I don't want it to be too confusing. So back to, I typed in 1 and 1, and then in this cell I have the formula. Basically, it's saying the green cell is equal to the sum of the 2 above it. So when I copy this formula down, it's going to apply that same formula to each cell. Each cell is going to be equal to the sum of the first 2 above it. And I'll go down to the 50th Fibonacci number. So question, what is the 42nd Fibonacci number? Well, we'll go down to the 42nd cell. I'll put it back to yellow. So there's the 42nd Fibonacci number. Again, I'm going through this quickly, but I think you should, go back, go through all of these problems on your own. This is the only way to learn Excel is for you to do the problems yourself. You can't learn this platform by just watching me do them. Okay, last problem, number 7. So in Boston, taxis charge $260 as a flat fee plus $280 per mile. Create a table that lists the overall cost of all cab rides in length between 0 and 15 miles at half-mile increments. So I want the total cost of a half-mile ride, 1 mile ride, 1.5 miles, 2 miles, 2.5, so on and so on. So now there's a little bit of algebra here. So think about where the cost is coming from. The cost is equal to the flat fee plus the $280 per mile. So we have a flat fee of $2.60. And you'll see it's already coming up as a dollar sign. I set it to currency. Over here in the top, this little drop-down menu, you can change the form of your number. So the general 2.6. If I wanted to change it to dollars and cents, I'll choose currency. Highlight that, change that to currency. And the mileage fee is $2.80 per mile. So if I type 2.8, Excel will turn it into $2.80. Okay, so now for the number of miles, starting with a half mile, I want everything up from 0 to, we can start with 0, I guess. Everything between 0 and 15 at increments of 0.5. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, so on. So Excel should be able to deal with this. Yeah. So we could drag this down until we see 15. Okay. So now we have the distance in miles, and now the cost. So we're basically going to use this formula, flat fee plus $280 per mile. So 280 times the number of miles. Again, I'm only typing in numbers manually when I absolutely have to. The flat fee is right here. So for the total cost, I'm going to say equal the flat fee, which is B1, plus $2.80 per mile. So 280 times the number of miles. So you should get 260 because the miles is 0, so 260 plus 280 times 0. Now I want you to really pay attention to this particular problem because it's using a function of Excel that is going to come up pretty often, very often. So like you've seen on the previous slides, or the previous worksheets, Excel updates your formula when you drag it down. So right now, if you look at the formula, there's a B1 and a C2. So when I drag the formula down, the B1 will become B2. It will always, index will increase by 1. And the C2 will become C3. But we don't want we don't want the B1 to change. B1 is the flat fee. So for every formula, for every cell, we want to use the same B1 in our calculation. B1 plus actually, you know what, I'm going to go back, and I typed in 2.8. I'm going to go back and do equals the flat fee plus the 280, which is there, B2, times the number of miles. Okay, so I have B1, B2, and C2. So that's flat fee plus 280 times number of miles. So if I drag this formula down, each one of those numbers, each one of those indices, the B1 becomes a B2, the B2 becomes B3, and the C2 becomes C3. That is not what we want. I'm just going to drag it down one space, and we actually get 280, which is not correct. So if we increase a half mile, it should have increased by $1.40, because half of the 280 was $1.40, so it should have gone up to $4. The problem is Excel updated the indices, so we're not using the same flat fee and the mileage fee. It's actually using 280 as the flat fee, and this blank spot, which is a 0, B3. So right now this B3 is 0. So we don't want, so go back to this formula, the 260. The only thing we want to change is the mileage. So we actually want to freeze the B1 and use B1 every time. We want to freeze the B2. So we want every formula to contain B1, B2. We want the C to update. We want the index to increase because the C is the miles. So the way we do that, the way we freeze the index is with a $sign. So I'll put a $sign in there next to the 1. So that means when I drag down the formula, the 1 stays 1. If you're using a PC, I think the keyboard shortcut is F4. So if you go to the formula and hit F4, yeah, F4 will put $signs there for you. But you can just type them in manually. $sign before the letter freezes the letter, and a $sign before the number freezes the number. So I don't need that $sign right there, so I'll take it away. So what I have here is B1 plus B2 times C2, and I've frozen the B1 and I've frozen the B2, but not the C2. So when I drag this down, there's my $4. So if you compare the two formulas, if you look up here in the function bar, B1, B2, C2, and then B1, B2, C3. So the B's are frozen, the index on the C is increasing. So if you look at, as I scroll through this formula, C4, C5, C6, so the C's are updating, but the B's are frozen. So I'll drag it all the way down. And here is we just did a lot of calculations very quickly. So Excel is great for repetitive calculations. That's 30 calculations, 31 calculations. You tell Excel how to do it once and drag it down. Excel will just complete the repetition for you. So this is what I'm wanting you to develop. And again, this is a skill we're going to develop over months, not over days. So I don't expect you to master Excel in a week or 2 weeks. Go through all of my Excel intros, 2 or 3 a week. And as we go through the semester, you're going to develop a very, very valuable skill. Data analysis on Excel, data organization on Excel, efficient calculations on Excel. This type of data manipulation is cross-disciplinary. It's used in all of the sciences, sociology, psychology, history, any field where there's information or data. You could use Excel to organize and sort and group and count and do all this organization with Excel. It's not just math, it's not just statistics. So please go back, do all these problems on your own, do all of my Excel intros. You'll have them in the weekly folders. If you have any questions, if there's anything on any of these Excel workbooks, any of these Excel problems that you want me to go in further detail, tell me, let me know, send me an email, and I'll make another video with more detail. I'm not going to be making a video for every single Excel intro. I'll do them in the beginning of the semester, but as we move forward, I will expect you to be becoming more self-sufficient, and if I'll make videos maybe as you request them. Okay, well, good luck, and don't take my advice. Don't fall behind. Deal with this Excel. Deal with learning Excel. Be consistent. Just little by little. Do a little bit each week. Don't put it off and then try to learn a lot all at once, because it's like you're learning another language here, and it's easy to become overwhelmed if you try to do too much at one time. Okay, that's it for now.